Although I'm quite sure I know every one of you, some of you who came before my time may not know me. So let me introduce myself. I'm Geri Cohen Stevens, and I'm pleased to be the one greeting you this evening. At 5 p.m. on Friday, April 28, 2006, the curtain was pulled away from a newly installed plaque outside an office on the second floor of Boylan Hall. The wording on the plaque under the Brooklyn College Vanguard logo read as follows: Brooklyn College's first student newspaper was published weekly from 1936 to 1950, when the college administration revoked its charter. This plaque, located outside its former office, honors the independence and courage of the Vanguard staff in upholding the free speech protection of campus journalists. Some 35 to 40 former Vanguardians witnessed this event and heard the ensuing remarks of then Brooklyn College President Christoph Kimmich. Dr. Kimmich eloquently made clear his commitment to righting a long, festering wrong, and noted that this plaque was the only one of its kind on campus. As managing editor during Vanguard's final year, and as the editor in charge of what was destined to be its final issue, I had the privilege of following Dr. Kimmich's comments with an outline of the events leading up to our demise, the mechanics of its implementation by the administration, and its immediate and far-reaching consequences. Central to my comments was a particular truth. We had been unfairly victimized and our voices stilled, but what emerged was a fierce and ongoing commitment to the issues we had confronted at the time, and an equally fierce commitment to maintaining the bond that had been forged by the adversity we all experienced. There are defining moments throughout our lives. Some are obvious and universal: a birth, a death, a choice, a stroke of luck, a brush with misfortune. Others are often more specifically personal and also often not identifiable until much later. For me, and I take the liberty of assuming that this is true of many of us here, a defining moment came when the rug was brutally pulled out from under us, our charter revoked, our door locked. Until then, while we were aware that we were living during a time of serious threats to civil liberties everywhere, and while we had ongoing ideological differences with the administration, and we regularly took positions on significant and not so significant campus issues, we were, first and foremost, students working on a college newspaper. In this context, we all enjoyed hanging around with each other, and many of us found ourselves drifting into the second floor office between classes and during our free periods. We liked what we were doing and shared a true affection and loyalty for each other and for the paper we served. But would we have been here tonight, together, celebrating a 60-year anniversary of Vanguard's demise, had we not been so brutally silenced? That, in an irony most definitely unintended by its perpetrators, has been the defining event that has forged the bond we all share. And the reality is, of course, that Vanguard never died. Wherever we were, whatever we were doing, we maintained our connection to each other, and there was always that place in our hearts that remembered the injustice committed against us. So, guys, we showed them, didn't we? And now, we will have the privilege of hearing from the first woman to hold the office of President of Brooklyn College, Dr. Karen Gould. But first, a few words about Dr. Gould, who was named to her present position in June of last year. A native of San Francisco, she holds degrees from the Sorbonne, a BA degree in French from Occidental College, and a PhD in Romance languages from the University of Oregon. Her teaching career began at Bucknell University. Later, she served as Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Cincinnati. Prior to her arrival here, she was President for Academic Affairs at California State University, Long Beach. Dr. Gould's principal expertise is French-Canadian literature, and her writings on this and related subjects are voluminous. There is much more to say about her distinguished career, but these are the headlines. And it is time to hear from Dr. Gould, whom it is my pleasure to introduce. Dr. Gould.
Thank you very much, Jerry, for those kind comments. I was vice president and senior vice president and provost at Cal State Long Beach, not president, but here I am now as president. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I know how meaningful this reunion must be for all of you. Some of you have not seen one another, I think, in a very long time. And I know that some of you are familiar with one another in very strong ways and best friends, some of you especially who live in Manhattan. I have had the pleasure and the great joy of getting to know Mike Candell and Al Lasher a little better, and through them, some of the stories of the Vanguard, as has my husband, as a matter of fact. I don't have prepared remarks tonight because I know that there are important things that need to be said by a number of you, and I want to yield the floor to you so that I can learn more. And I am especially happy that some of our student journalists, you want to raise your hands, students who are there in several places? And our two professors of journalism who are also here, Tony and Paul, you want to raise your hands so people can see you. I think there are only two of you. So that we have practicing journalists and journalists to be, I think, in the making, certainly. It is tremendously important, and I am pleased to know that President Kimmich already acknowledged the Vanguard in a very important way back in 2006, and I know his sensibilities certainly were supportive. It is always difficult to come to an institution, whether it's Brooklyn College, or this is my 7th institution as a professional in higher education, over 35 years. Yes, I am that old. And to know that there was a time, sometimes there are multiple times in an institution's history, when very difficult occurrences took place, sometimes unethical, sometimes immoral, sometimes simply very debatable. And in this case, in the history of Brooklyn College, this is obviously one of the dark times. And I simply want to tell you that I believe, as you have, our institution has become a stronger, and yes, I would say a better place, as a result of looking at and coming to terms with, in both a formal way and I think in educational ways, some of the meaning of those difficult, dark times. Just as I believe our country, in terms of the McCarthy era, which was part of those difficult, dark times, has also been scrutinized and appropriately examined, perhaps not as extensively sometimes as we should, but we learned from those difficult times to do better in the future. We went through that with the Civil Rights Movement, and we certainly went through that with the Vietnam War. That is a period of time that marked my generation. I know my husband's slightly older than me, but his as well, in terms of the difficult choices and considerations that we made as young people on our campuses. These were, of course, issues of national debate and international debate as well. But I know that the Vanguard also symbolically was living the experience of many student newspapers and many newspapers around the country in those difficult times. So I just want to say to you that although I wasn't here and I don't really know what it was like, and neither do the young people sitting in this room, we can't imagine, through what we read and hear from you and from what we will learn tonight, how significant those days were. And as Geri has just said to you, through those tough and often nasty times and experiences that you do experience, and we have in other ways as well as adults, you do find a bonding and a significance far beyond the event that over time is something that helps you have hope for the future. And I certainly have, through your difficult times, a great hope for this institution, that we have learned a lot, that we will continue to learn, but that we have tremendous respect for our student newspaper, both of them. We have two of them now, which is somewhat unique, and that they are learning and growing in their daily endeavors together, as well as in their efforts to be young journalists. And that, yes, there are times, I am sure, when I hate the word the administration because it sounds so monolithic. We are just people trying to do our jobs on behalf of the institution, all of us, the faculty and the staff and the senior administration. But we do care tremendously for this institution because of what it represents. It represents the opportunities of decades of young people, and sometimes not so young people, coming back to school or going to school for the first time and having access to an outstanding education with tremendous faculty who are known nationally, internationally, and at a very affordable, it's no longer free, but at a very affordable price. We are committed to that mission that continues today and the diversity that our students represent, but we are also committed, and I pledge to you this, we are also committed to the free and open expression of ideas. We will not always agree on all topics. That's what a democracy is all about. And the day that we walk away from that is the day that democracy dies. So I will tell you that I will continue to learn from your experience with the Vanguard, and I'm sure you will continue to educate me, but we will all make sure that those dark days never occur again at Brooklyn College. Thank you.